Okay, in this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to do what I call a complex cutout. Just to show you what that's going to look like. Kind of a piece sort of like this, where it has areas that are cut out of it. And then letters also work for a complex cutout. So what we're going to do to get started is, of course, draw our horizon line going across your paper, roughly in the center, but you don't have to measure it. Make sure you use a ruler. And then go ahead and put in your vanishing point. All right, so let's start with a letter. Now, if you're feeling really comfortable with perspective, go ahead and try a letter of your choice. If you'd like to follow along with me to make sure it's looking exact, go ahead and try the letter F with me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to work up here in my top left corner, and I'm going to use my ruler to draw kind of a box letter style F. So I'm going to make sure it has nice straight lines. You can certainly choose a letter that has a curve on it. There's a little bit more of a challenge with that, but it's not difficult. So if you feel comfortable with it, try a letter of your choice. If not, just follow along with me and try the F, and then after you get the hang of the F, you can go back and try a different letter. So going ahead, using my ruler here, making sure my lines are nice and straight. Connect this up a minute, and then I will show you what to do. And this is kind of a fun way to make 3D letters that it's really accurate. And I just call it a complex cutout because there's areas that are cut out, so you're going to end up with more lines going back to the vanishing point. Now at this point, because we've done several boxes by now, you're getting the hang of bringing those lines back to the vanishing point. So to kind of simplify it a little bit, what you can do, rather than drawing the line all the way back to the vanishing point, you can line up your ruler to the vanishing point and just start bringing it back. So maybe like this. It's headed there, but it's not going all the way there. That just makes erasing a little less work in the end, saves you a little bit of time. So once you get the hang of perspective, feel free to do that. If you still rather bring it all the way back to the vanishing point, you absolutely can. So what I'm doing here is I'm just bringing back the lines of my F that would go towards my vanishing point. So the difference between just a regular form and what I call complex cutouts is you just have a lot more lines to work with. So sometimes it can feel a little complicated, but once you get the hang of it, it's really the same process. It's not super difficult, it's just a little bit more time consuming. So now I have all the lines going back from my F that I need. So now I get to start trimming it up. So again, when you're trimming, make sure you're working with parallel lines. So I know this edge right here needs to be vertical, whereas this one needs to be horizontal. So make sure you're paying attention to that. So I like to work from the top of the letter and then work down to the bottom. So now I trim this up, and then I'm going to trim this area. And if you have a line that's going to run into another section like this, don't run it all the way through, just stop where it's going to hit it. Okay? Then I can put this line in and then trim this up. And if you want to, you can start erasing as you go. So maybe before I finish this, I'm going to just erase these extra lines just so it doesn't get too confusing. And I'm almost finished with this now. I'm just going to bring this line down to the bottom here, and then one final horizontal line. So even if you have a small space to work in, make sure it's still horizontal. Okay, you don't want an angled line when you're trimming. Then I'm going to erase the rest of this. And now we've got our letter. Now if you wanted to, you could certainly add some shading in too. You could use pencils, or you can use other materials to add a little bit of shading in. And that can just help things pop out a little bit more, look even more 3D. I'm not going to spend much time on it, but you can kind of see, you can start working with some shading. But let's go ahead and try another type of complex cutout. Very similar to the letter where we're going to have areas cut away. We'll put a curve in there just to try that. But think of it sort of like a puzzle piece. So I'm going to work in the bottom right hand corner for this one. You can feel free to work wherever you want, or you can just follow along with me. So to start, I'm actually just going to draw a rectangle. I'm going to keep it fairly light at first, so I apologize if you can't see this. I'll darken it up in a minute. So what I'm doing is I'm starting with a rectangle, and then I'm going to take my eraser and just kind of cut out pieces of it. So maybe I'm going to have this area up here. I'll draw a little bit darker now so you can see. To kind of create like a little indent. Like this. And then, let's see, erase a couple more areas. And I'm going to put a curve on this side. So if you want to try a curve. And then, like a puzzle piece, I'll have a area coming out of my main rectangle. Okay, so I've got a little something going like this. You could have something similar to that, or you could try your own kind of puzzle piece or complex cutout. So what we're going to do is we're going to start bringing all these lines back to the vanishing point. And again, we're going to have a lot of them because of all the cutout areas. So that's what makes it sort of complex. So again, I'm not going to bring my lines all the way back to the vanishing point because I'm just going to have to erase them anyway, but I'm going to have them all headed in that direction. And when you have a curve, you're going to work with both sides of it, bringing it back to the vanishing point. And then the trimming process is a little different, and I'll show you that in a few minutes. All right, and then I'm even going to work down here and bring this back to the vanishing point, but I'm going to stop when I get to the edge of my form. I don't want that to go through it. It wouldn't make any sense for it to do that. Okay, continuing to trim this up. Just kind of go around your entire form, and any line that needs to go back, you can bring it back. So that's what mine's going to look like. I've got all the lines that I need, so now I get to start trimming it up. So pick a starting point, and when you have your ruler lined up, you can actually, like for example, I can draw all the way across these two, and I have these two trimmed now. And then just use your lines to kind of connect. So I knew this line that's vertical connected to this horizontal line, and it's also going to connect to this other horizontal line. So it can be a little complicated, but just work slowly. Go around your form. Let me go ahead and erase these lines, and then I'll show you how to put that final curve in there if you haven't figured that out yet. And certainly, by all means, if you're really getting the idea of perspective, you can work ahead a little bit. If you're way ahead of me here, go ahead and try some forms on your own as well. Perspective is one of those skills in art that's very technical, and it's good to keep practicing. All right, so now to do a curve like this, all I need to do is freehand. You have to freehand a curve, of course, and I'm working from top to bottom and kind of trying to match that same curve. Okay, so now I have a complex cutout.